Hello, we're back at you with episode 102 of the Tennis Performance Show, and today we're going to talk about how to start off the match at a great intensity. What we're going to be answering for you is a couple of questions. Question one is, what do you do the night before a match? Question two is, what do you do in the morning of the match? What can I do the morning of the match so that I set up myself I'm going at a good intensity during the match? And then what can I do in the hour before a match so that I set myself up to crush it when that tournament happens? And with the Australian Open happening right now, the Australian Open coming up in a couple of days, it's interesting to think about these things and to talk about these things because, well, a lot of these players have their own ways and their own things that they do the night before a match. Some of them are superstitious, and some of them do things that are actually related to performance. So, okay, let's dive into it. So, what do you do the night before the match? Well, there's a bunch of things, right? Like you're picturing yourself, you're playing a tournament, and what might happen is you might notice yourself getting nervous and getting those butterflies in your stomach and starting to think about the match and how the other person is seated and they're better than you and she's better than you and or he's beaten you before. So those sorts of thoughts we want to quiet down and tune into our best performances. So what I suggest is creating a highlight reel. And by highlight reel I mean think back to your best performances, and especially against this player if you've played them before, and at this tournament if you've played this tournament before. What are the best moments that you've had at this tournament? And that's what I mean by highlight reel. Obviously, going into a match, if you know anything about the player, you want to create some sort of match plan that makes sense around their game, or if you've seen them play before in the tournament, if you've heard of what their game style is, you want to craft a match plan so that you can have a couple of focus points going into the match tomorrow, right? What some people love to do is just spend time with family and just hang out and laugh and do whatever and just not think about tennis. You might watch a movie with a significant other. You might just be by yourself reading a book or whatever, but doing something that's familiar, that's not too tennis related, like once you have the match plan and stuff. Drinking lots of water, that's like a common thing because you're going to need that water the next day. So staying super hydrated and just drinking lots of glasses of water. As your night meal, and as a claimer, I'm not a nutritionist, so be cautious with any nutritional advice that I give. But what I would suggest is for the duration of the tournament, especially that night before the tournament until the tournament ends, not eating any meat because meat just takes a while to process. It constricts the blood vessels, and that's not great for performance when you want your body flowing and going and being optimized. So yeah, I'd suggest a high carb meal and eating something like pasta or rice and something like that, but I would stay away from the meat and fish. If you're traveling, obviously it's going to be important to look at sleeping, right? If you're sleeping in a hotel that's noisy, where there's a lot of light, you want to come with a face mask, with earplugs, things like that. If you're going to be sharing a room with somebody who snores, you want to keep that in mind as well. If you're a person who's traveling to a tournament where you might feel jet lag, that'll be something you need to prepare for ahead of time, and that'll be really important. And so that's some of the things you can do the night before the match, and some of the things that are going to be important and that are actually going to affect your performance. Now, okay, so now you've the night's done and you've slept, and now you wake up in the morning and you're going to be playing that day in a couple of hours or whatever. Thing number one is getting, again, lots of water into your body. And that's important because your body's going to need that water. And if you start to feel thirsty during the match, that means you're way too late. So what you got to do is you got to get lots of water in you in the morning. and give your body that fuel that it's going to need during that tough match against that opponent. For breakfast, there's a couple of things, a couple of do's and a couple of don'ts. The don'ts are the things you want to avoid is protein and high fat foods. So protein is anything that has meat, like cold cuts. You don't want to do a protein shake the morning of the match. And you want to avoid high fat foods like fried eggs and things like that. What you do want to do is you want to eat a high carbohydrate meal. So what that would be, it might be cereal with low fat yogurt. It might be a muffin and a banana and toast with peanut butter and jelly. Any sort of thing. So any sort of thing that has carbohydrates are going to be important for you, because that's the main fuel source that you're going to be using during the match. So you want to focus on those sorts of foods. Again, I've mentioned water, and I can't mention that enough. I mean, just having lots and lots of water and just giving that body the fuel that it's going to be needing. And then reviewing your match plan that you set with your coaches or on your own the night before, and just having a couple of those key points, and just knowing what you're going to be focusing on during the match. Okay, and so now we fast forward. The morning is kind of done, and it's like the hour before the match, an hour before you're supposed to play. Thing number one is I would suggest not checking in like 2 hours before the match. And then what people have a tendency to do is check in 2 hours before the match and then just watch other matches. And that's not good, because then the eyes get tired, your brain gets tired, you're absorbing things that you're not supposed to be absorbing. You're supposed to be tuning into your own performance, your own match, and you're wasting energy watching other people's matches. So you're not going to be starting at that high intensity. So what I would suggest instead is checking in 5 to 10 minutes before the match, before you're supposed to be playing. But you can be at the venue before, warming up, and I would suggest that. So let's say you get to the venue an hour before. What you want to do is, again, water. Always water bottle with you, drinking water. And how much water? Well, yeah, right before the hour before a match, you want to have about 250 milliliters or a cup of water. And then 15 minutes before a match, you want to have another 250 milliliters of water. And you've already had water in the morning, so you're going to have water flowing through your system so that your body is nice and hydrated. I would not suggest eating any food the hour before a match. If you're really hungry, it might be okay to have some sort of fruit smoothie or some sort of electrolyte drink, but no solid foods at all, because your body's getting ready for battle in like an hour. What you want to do is you want to do a great physical warm-up and a hit if you can. If you can't do a hit, doing shadow swings is awesome, but doing that physical warm-up is really, really important. A, so you don't get injured during the match, and B, so that your heart rate and your heart and your body and your muscles are all warmed up to produce that optimal performance. Something else I would really suggest is, right, you have the physical warm-up and you're getting physically ready, right? You're getting hydrated and that's happening. The other thing I would suggest is that getting mentally ready. And the way I would suggest doing that is visualizing a couple of, just like sitting down for like 5 or 10 minutes and starting off with some sort of relaxed breathing, right? Inhaling through the nose, exhaling out through the mouth, and then once you do a couple of those breaths with your eyes closed in a space that's quiet, like it might be the car or a change room, whatever, imagining points that you're going to be facing, especially if you know the kind of player you're going to be playing, and imagining things not going great. So you don't want to always imagine things going really well. You want to imagine difficult strategies. You want to imagine things that are going to be happening during the match that you know what the other person is going to do to you that are pretty challenging and adverse. And you want to imagine yourself getting out of those situations. So that's a few of the suggestions that I have so that you can go into the match and crush it like Zverev and Tsitsipas and Shapovalov. And so these are the things that it takes to to perform optimally when the tennis match starts. And starting at a high intensity is obviously really important. And focusing on the night before, the morning of, and the 1 hour right before the match is really important. Having like a checklist of things that you do right before is really helpful. So yeah, go out and crush it. Let me know if you have any questions down below. I'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you on episode 103. Leave us a comment down below, and subscribe to this video so you don't miss out and so you join part of the community. Take care. Bye.